The winter of 1897 in the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia was not just cold, it was suffocating. In the small community of Greenbrier County, life moved at the pace of a horse-drawn wagon, and secrets were usually buried deep in the rocky soil. But one secret refused to stay underground. This is the story of Zona Heaster Shue, a young woman whose death sparked a legal precedent so bizarre it remains a staple of American folklore and legal studies today. Erasmus Edward Stribling Trout Shue arrived in Greenbrier looking for a fresh start. He was a blacksmith, strong, charismatic, and possessing a mysterious air that charmed the local women. It wasn't long before he set his sights on Zona Heaster. Despite the immediate protests of Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heaster, who felt an instinctive, bone-chilling dread toward the man, the two were married within weeks. For Mary Jane, Edward Shue wasn't a charming newcomer. He was a predator in a Sunday suit. On January 23, 1897, after only 3 months of marriage, Zona's body was found at the foot of the stairs by a young boy sent to the house on an errand. By the time the local physician and coroner, Dr. George Knapp, arrived an hour later, Edward Shue had already moved his wife's body to the upstairs bedroom. In a move that was highly unusual for the time, Shue had already dressed her himself, placing her in a high-necked, stiff-collared dress and a veil over her face. As Dr. Knapp attempted an examination, Shue exhibited violent outbursts of grief, cradling his wife's head and sobbing so hysterically that the doctor, feeling a mix of pity and discomfort, performed only a brief inspection. He noted everlasting faint as the cause of death, later changing it to childbirth. Zona was buried 3 days later, but for Mary Jane Heaster, the mourning was just beginning, and it was fueled by a burning suspicion. For 4 nights following the funeral, Mary Jane Heaster prayed. She didn't pray for peace, she prayed for the truth. On the 4th night, she claimed her prayers were answered. According to Mary Jane's sworn testimony, the spirit of her daughter appeared at her bedside. The room grew cold, and the apparition of Zona materialized, glowing with an ethereal, mournful light. The ghost told a terrifying tale. Edward was not the man he claimed to be. He was a man of violent temper. In a fit of rage over dinner, he had attacked her. The most chilling detail? The ghost slowly turned its head until it was facing completely backward, indicating that her neck had been broken. In 1897, ghost stories were common in the hollows of West Virginia, but they didn't hold weight in a courtroom. However, Mary Jane was relentless. She spent weeks hounding the prosecuting attorney, John Alfred Preston. Preston was a man of logic, but Mary Jane's conviction was unnerving. He began to look into Shue's past and discovered a trail of shadows. Shue had been married twice before. His first wife divorced him for extreme cruelty. His second wife died under mysterious circumstances involving a head injury. With this evidence, Preston ordered an exhumation. When Zona's body was removed from the earth, the community watched in hushed silence. Dr. Knapp, perhaps seeking to redeem his initial laziness, performed a rigorous autopsy. The findings were horrific. The windpipe had been crushed. The ligaments of the neck were torn. And, exactly as Mary Jane had described from her vision, the first and second vertebrae, the C1 and C2 atlas and axis, were fractured. Zona's neck had been broken. Edward Shue was immediately arrested and charged with murder. The trial began in June 1897. It became a media sensation, drawing crowds from across the state.
The prosecution focused on the physical evidence and Shue's history, but the defense attorney made a tactical error that changed history. The defense attorney, believing he could make Mary Jane look like a crazy old woman, cross-examined her extensively about her ghostly visitations. He wanted the jury to laugh at her. Instead, Mary Jane stood her ground with such unwavering, vivid detail that the jury was mesmerized. She described the ghost's clothing, the temperature of the room, and the specific words spoken. She didn't sound crazy. She sounded like a witness who had seen the impossible. "I was not dreaming. I was as wide awake as I am now. She told me her neck was squeezed off at the first joint." The jury deliberated for only 1 hour and 10 minutes. Edward Shue was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. He died 3 years later of an epidemic that swept through the West Virginia State Penitentiary. To this day, the state of West Virginia maintains a historical marker near the site. It reads, "Interred nearby cemetery is Zona Heaster Shue. Her death in 1897 was presumed natural until her spirit appeared to her mother. Only known case in which testimony from a ghost helped convict a murderer."